Say later.
Oh, that's caramel.
How come it doesn't say it's supposed to say it's recording? Oh, it is recording, I guess. Yeah. It didn't say, she didn't talk to me and tell me she was recording. Normally there's a recording in progress, but I
No,
see
you
it.
see the cloud.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So all that was on there too, and we should just ignore it. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Okay, Parshas Vayera. Finish. We hopefully will be, this year will be a schus for Refuah Shleima for Chaya Peleb and Sosa Malka. She's a special lady. And who? Yes, and Hannah Rus Bas Golda. We got a few more too. But Ruvain, Ahuva Edel Bas Shoshana, and Yechiel Michel, and Chaya Sora. They all should have a Refuah Shleima. Okay, so this is the parsha right after Avram Avinu was commanded by Kadosh Baruch Hu to perform the bris at the end of last week's parsha. And then this parsha opens Vayera Hashem el Avram be'elonei Mamrei, and Rashi points out that what does he have to tell us where Avram Avinu was? Be'elonei Mamrei, in the plains of Mamre, or in the estate of Mamre. Now the Medrash says a very interesting thing on this, and it says that when Hashem commanded Avram Avinu to perform the bris, so Avram Avinu sought advice from his friends, Oner, Eshkol, and Mamre. He had three, but Shehem, Pasuk says in Lech Lecha, Shehem bnei bris Avram. They had a covenant with each other, a bris. A bris is a very important thing. It's not just stam. A bris is not just a contract. It's far deeper than a contract. Just to point out what a bris is. And we learn it, the Gra teaches us this. And he says that a bris is the way we create a bris. The pasuk refers to it as kores bris. You cut a bris. That's very strange. I mean, you have a covenant. You decide on a deal. You both sign the document, and it's fine. Why kores bris? And the Gra explains that a bris, a true bris, and he gives an example of two very, very close friends that have to separate and go to different parts of the world. And each one takes a little bit of themselves from their essence and gives it to the other, so that they're always together with one another, no matter where they are. Each one gives cuts, as it were, a part of himself and gives it to the other. So when we talk about, Bale Bris Avraham, they made a bris. So in the bris of Bismillah, Hashem promises, in a sense, that he is going to be ours. He will give himself to us, and we give our blood to him. That's a bris milah. So at that point, when Hashem told them to perform the bris milah, so Avram Avinu wants to take the advice of his Baal bris, which is Oner, Eshkol, and Mamre. Oner said to him, be careful, the bris will weaken you, and you'll be vulnerable to attack. Now before you were able to conquer four gigantic kings that were able to vanquish five kings, and you vanquished them with 318 men, or some say it was only Eliezer, whose gematria is 318. And if you make a bris, you'll become weak, and the families of the people that you conquered or killed, will come after you, and you won't have any protection. That was Eshkol. Oner said to him that the bris itself. The bris itself will you'll lose blood, and in your old age, it's dangerous. Dangerous. Make a bris operation. Mamre said to him, no. He said something different. He said, just as Hashem delivered him from the furnace of Nimrod and gave him victory over the 4 kings, he should trust in Hashem. That's what Mamre said. Now, number of questions here. First of all, that number one, Mamre was rewarded for what he said, and that's why it says, Be'elonei Mamre. He appeared to him in the plains or the state of Mamre because of the good advice that he gave him. But there are a number of questions. Question number one is, why did he seek the advice in the first place? Avram Avinu had this connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, told him to do a bris, and Avram Avinu knew, they were kind of on the same page, he and Hashem. It's hard for us even to put ourselves in that position. It's hard even to think about it. Somebody that was in total and complete direct connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But okay, he was totally connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem told him to perform the bris. He should have done it and finished. What is he going asking these goyim for, so to speak? And if he thought he needed advice, question number two, so why go to these guys? Go to the base medrash of Shem Vayera and find out what he's supposed to do. And if 2 people that he consulted told him not to do it, and only one told him to do it, so he should have followed the Rov, why did he follow Mamre? And number 4 or 5, I don't know where we're holding, Oner and Eshkol, who told him seemingly not to do it, should have been punished. Mamre was rewarded, but Oner and Eshkol, there was no response to Oner and Eshkol. All right, so that's the introduction. So really, I want to talk about friendship. Balei Bris Avram, friends. Before Hashem created Adam Arishon, he consulted with the midas of Chesed, Din, Emes, Shalom. Yeah, there was a whole deal. There was a whole discussion. Should we? Shouldn't we? Shalom said not to because they're always fighting, and Emes said not to because they're always lying. Chesed said yes to do it. There was this back and forth. So Rashi learns from this very interesting thing, that one should seek advice. When you're seeking advice, you should seek advice even from someone who's on a lower intellectual level than you are and lower spiritual level than you are. You should take advice even from someone who is less than your level. And in Pirkei Avos, on the Mishnah in Perek Aleph, where it says, Knei lecha chaver, you should have a friendship. And the Mefarshim learn that even a friend who is on a lower level of ruchnius than you are. What's going on? So we have to know, in matters that concern ourselves, especially serious matters, we are highly and completely almost subjective and biased. Me, myself, I, numero uno. We're biased about ourselves. Our eyes are blinded, in a sense, from anything other than our self-interest, what's best for us, what we want, our desires, and we can't really objectively weigh the pros and the cons. That's why you seek advice. You should. The Meiri on the Posik it's a Posik of Mishlei, he says like this, Machshavos be'etza tikon. Thoughts conceived in counsel will be firm. In other words, you should always seek advice. Check it out. You need the perspective of someone else, not only your bias, someone who is removed from your subjective biases that cloud your own vision. He should be the kind of individual that can weigh the situation objectively without contending with all the Yetzer Haras that you have. You're seeking advice. Know that you're subjective. That's the first thing. when you're talking about yourself, you've got to know that you wouldn't make a good judge about yourself. So a friend doesn't necessarily have to be on a higher level and more learned than you and more even frummer than you. Let's use that word, only because I don't like it. But even someone who's on an equal level or even less, but he doesn't have your self-interest. He doesn't have your biases. He doesn't have your desires. That's why. Now, example of that, Nadav and Avihu. We know that they brought Eish Zara to the Mishkan, on the Mizbeach. Chazal say that one of the reasons Nadav and Avihu were punished was because they didn't consult with one another. Huh, that's strange. They both came to the same conclusion. So what difference does it make whether they consult or not? They both decided to do it on their own. However, had they considered the situation from the point of view of the other, not their point of view, remove themselves from their bias and put themselves into the situation of the other person, then they probably would not have made the mistake of bringing the Eish Zara. It's an amazing thing. They didn't consult with one another. So you see how important it is, number one, to recognize that you need a good friend, and number two, how important it is to be a good friend.
But in that pasuk it says "Aseh lecha rav, k'nei lecha chaver."
Yeah.
First it says "Aseh lecha rav."
Yeah, that's totally different. Aseh lecha rav means, yeah, it doesn't say Aseh lecha talmidim. It says Aseh lecha rav. You have to find someone, even if he knows less than you. Even the same thing with the chaver. Even if he knows less than you, but if you're totally relying on yourself, you can make mistakes. Aseh lecha rav. There you don't have to. There is something that you have to look for someone who knows who you are to be a good Rav for you. But Knei L'chol Chaver means even more than that, much more than that, because a true Chaver, first of all, that there's a chibur here. The word Chaver means chibur, you're connected. And he's able to place himself into your position. The Rav may not be able to place himself in your position because he's so separate. Okay. And the pasuk of Lo Sitein Michshol, Lifnei Iver, Lo Sitein Michshol, we are familiar, don't put a stumbling block of a blind person. It doesn't mean to give him bad advice alone. It means to refrain from giving good advice. That too is a Lifnei Iver. If you have good advice, if you're able to remove yourself from his bias, and those things, you know him well enough to know what his biases are, and you can remove yourself from it. Okay. What? What? How would you translate there? Don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person, right? So that means don't give him bad advice. When you give him bad advice, yes, you're putting a stumbling block in front of him. Iver doesn't necessarily mean blind, but sightless. It means someone who doesn't see the reality. And here he's saying even more than that. It's not just giving him bad advice, but it's refraining from giving good advice. It's also a mikshol for the other person. If you have the good advice to give him and you don't give it to him, that's a mistake. Is that clear? Doctor, is that clear? Okay. Okay, so that was the Rashba. So the purpose of a good friend, we're talking about friendship now, right? The purpose of a good friend, to be a good friend, is to provide an objective view on the issue at hand, without his emotional self-interest, the person that you're dealing with. He shouldn't just imagine himself to be in that position. What would I do? You have to put yourself in his position, but without his bias. And then you're a good friend. Okay. Now, why did Avram consult in the first place? That was one of the questions we asked. Why did he consult? Avram had never had any doubt whatsoever that he would fulfill Hashem's command or to perform the bris. I mean, that wasn't the issue. But he sought the advice of someone who was more objective than he. He wanted to choose those people who could best put themselves in his position and experience, because they were the Baal Bris Avram. They knew what a bris was all about. And now we're going into a bris with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wanted to hear from them what his attitude should be within the bris, within this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem told him to command. All right, I'm going to do it. Of course I'm going to do it. It's Abraham Avinu. He's going to do it. But what is his feeling? What is it? How to extract himself from all of his other biases? Which, of course, led to his ability to perform the Akedah. But that's another discussion. That's also in the Parsha. Oner and Eshkol did not give him bad advice. You said he gave him bad advice. Why weren't they punished? He didn't give him bad advice. He didn't tell him not to do it. Had he told them not to do it, that would be bad advice. But what he said to them, they said that they focused on the dangers that he should bear in mind, what the dangers are of what he's doing. He should be doing it. Yes, of course you should do it. I'm not telling you not to do it. Hashem said do it, do it. But just know what the situation is, and there are dangers involved, and take that into consideration. Whereas Mamre, so one said you're going to, come weak, they'll attack you. The other one said that you'll lose the blood. All of that, you have to know that. In other words, they were being good friends in a sense. And they told him that this is a dangerous thing, and you have to be aware of it. Mamre was not rewarded because he told them to do the bris. They told him to do the bris too. Of course, you're going to listen to Hashem, because he said to them, your attitude, your feelings about this should be such. Hashem saved you before. He saved you from Nimrod in the fire. He saved you from the four kings. You have to have that sense of commitment and reliance on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he has your best interest at heart and he's not going to harm you. So Mamre freed himself from his own. Had he been, he would have felt, oh, hey, I also have a problem. But no, he told him, pay attention to where you're coming from. You're coming from a relationship with Hashem that is absolutely pristine. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know that he saved you and wants to save you. And then finally, the last question is, why didn't Avraham Avinu go to Oner Eshkol, to the Beis Medrash of Shem De'ever? Because he didn't want to psak halacha. It wasn't an issue of halacha here. He didn't go there to the Rav. He didn't go to the Rav. Why did he go to the Rav? You go to the Rav for a psak. No, he didn't want to go to the Rav. He wasn't looking for a psak. He was not looking for what's right and what's wrong. He knew exactly what was right and what was wrong. He was looking for the advice of the proper attitude to perform the mitzvah. And that's what Mamre gave him. Do you hear that? It is so special for us in terms of, number one, with our relationship with our friends, of being a good friend, and what a good friend means. You start talking with each other and you have issues and there are problems and there's pain and there's all kinds of things that you have to take consideration, but put yourself in their position. Put yourself in their position without their bias. If you could do that, you're really a good friend. Okay. Now, next point. That was the first point of the parsha. There's another point here that's very interesting. The Gemara says like this. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. A pasuk in Tehillim. Motzasi David Avdi. B'shemen kochi mishachtiv. I found my servant David, and I anointed him with my holy oil, meaning I appointed him king over Klal Yisrael. The Medrash Rabbah asks, where'd you find him? Where did HaKadosh Baruch Hu find David HaMelech? Matzotzi, I found him. Where? Answers the Medrash in Sdom. Yeah, it's surprising, no? It's a Medrash Pliya. I found him in Sdom. What's the connection of David HaMelech and Sdom? What's going on here? So, Ruth was his great-grandmother. His great-grandmother, I'm sorry. And she came from Moab. And Moab began with the daughters of Lot who were living in Sdom. They came from Sdom. And since Ruth, the great-grandmother of David HaMelech, came from Moab, Moab began in Sdom with Lot and his daughters. So the Shoresh, amazing, the Shoresh, the root of Malchus Yisrael, that's David HaMelech. David HaMelech, the king, is David HaMelech. David HaMelech, Yisrael, Chai, V'Kayim, all of it is the continuation of David HaMelech. He established Malchus in Yisrael. Malchus, by the way, doesn't mean being a, how should I say, a bombastic president. Put it that way, as best way as I can, as clean as I can. A melech, that's not a melech. The Rambam says a melech in Klal Yisrael, liboy levav kol Yisrael. His heart is the heart of all of Klal Yisrael, every single one of us, every member in Klal Yisrael. And when he dealt with them, he was dealing with his heart, with his emotions, with his love, with his caring, and not his ego. That was David HaMelech. All right, but we'll see. So everything was that begins the Shoresh was somehow this Malchus of Klal Yisrael was evident in Sdom because of Lot and the terrible thing that he did with his daughters, or they did with him. Yeah, David HaMelech came from there. Ruth came from there. Ruth was the queen or the princess of Moab. She was from the worst of the worst. And she became the best of the best. We'll see, that's what Malchus is all about. That's why she was the great-grandmother of David HaMelech, because she was the worst of the worst, the princess of Moab. The Arizal says Moab, the gematria of Moab is 49. And that's the Ben Teshari Tum was Moab. And she was the princess. Everything in Parshas Bereshis, in Chumash Bereshis, is the roots of what's going to happen with Klal Yisrael in the future. That's Bereshis. The four kings that captured Lot, okay, that Avram Avinu battled in order to save, represented the four kingdoms, Malchuyos, that were going to take away Malchus from Klal Yisrael. They captured Lot. The capturing of Lot, who had within him the kernel of Malchus, through Moab and through Ruth, they captured him. So this battle that Avram Avinu was fighting was the battle of the four nations that were going to take away Malchus from Klal Yisrael. Babel took away the Malchus from Klal Yisrael. Then came Parshas Vayera, and they took away the Malchus of Klal Yisrael from Babel. And then came Yavan, who took the Malchus of Yisrael away from Parshas Vayera, and then came Rome, who took the Malchus of Klal Yisrael away from Yavan. Ma'aseh Avos Siman Labani. Whatever happened to the Avos in Chumash, you have to know it's a siman to what's going to be happening to this very day. So when the four kings captured Lot, it was the root of the Goyim taking away our Malchus and taking it on to themselves. But when Avram Avinu came and rescued Lot, who had within him the kernel of Malchus, and he took him out of the control of the four kings, that was the root of the Geula. And that was the root of Mashiach Tzidkenu, Mashiach ben David. That's what's taking place here. We We don't perceive it. But when the Pasuk says, Matzasi David Avdi, he found them where, says the Medrash, say Chazal, in stone? Oh, oh, did he come from stone? Now, let's take a little bit, go back a step. The Arizal said that the three Melachim that came to Avraham Avinu and they thought they were Arvayim, their ultimate goal, all three of them, their missions were the same. In other words, he was answering a question. It seems like from what's going on here, which you'll see, that each one had a specific job, even though their specific missions seem to have been different, but the goal of that specific mission was the same. Their specific mission was this. They came, no, the specific ones, not the total, not the goal, but the total one. One was to announce the birth of Yitzchak, the other was to destroy Sodom, and the other was to save Lot. And the other one was to heal Avraham Avinu. The same one that was going to save Lot was to heal Avraham Avinu. Well, that's strange, because then we should have had four. Because one malach only has one job. He doesn't have two jobs. He doesn't do two things. He does a job, then he's over with. So why was this one that was healing Avram and the one that was saving Lot considered one job? And the answer is like this. They actually, all of them were one job. They all had one goal. They all had one purpose. Pasuk says like this. Avram says, Vayomer Adonai. He's talking about this is Chol, that's not Hashem. He's talking to the three Arvayim, to the three Malachim. Im no motzasi chen beinecho. Doesn't say beinecho. Al no sa'avor. Doesn't say ta'avru. It says sa'avor me'al avdecha. Don't leave me. Stay here. So you see that he perceived in them as one. Not only that, he says, Im no motzosi chen beinecho al ta'avru. It doesn't say al ta'avru me'al avdecha. It says al ta'avor. Vayomru elov ayei Sarah ishtecha. Where is Sarah, your wife? All of a sudden now, Vayomeru, they all said it as one. It was all one statement. Vayomru, they said it as one. What is it that they all shared in common? What was that common goal? One was to tell them about Yitzchak, one was to save Lot, one was to heal Avram, one was to destroy Sodom. What was the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is like this. Lot, who contained within him the Malchus of Klal Yisrael, the kingship, through Moab, his daughter, and Moab, and Ruth, and ultimately Mashiach ben David. So Lot contained within him the seed of David HaMelech and Mashiach Tzidkenu, Mashiach ben David. And the Medrash says that it was all found in stone. Matzasi David Avdi was in stone. So that's the Pasuk in Sfanya. There's a beautiful Pasuk in Sfanya. I think I mentioned it a number of times. It says, Oz, then, meaning at the time Mashiach. Ahafoch el amim sofa brura. I will overturn all the nations with a clear statement, or with one word, one expression. Likro kulam b'shem Hashem lovdo shchem echad. I will create a revolution, ahapoch, of the nations of the world, and they'll all come to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shem echad with Klal Yisrael. What he's saying here, Tzefania, when Mashiach comes, he's going to turn the world upside down, inside out, backwards and forwards. Whatever we think is forwards will be backwards. Whatever we think is backwards will be forward. Whatever we think is good is bad. Whatever we think is bad is good. Whatever we think is a lie is truth. Whatever what we think is truth is a lie. Vayahapoch. I'm going to reverse it. Haficha. It means to overturn. V'nahapachu. Dover v'hafucha. One thing and its opposite. Mashiach's not coming to make things better. Don't fool yourself. He's not coming to make things better. Rather, he'll reverse everything. He will take it and turn it all over on its head. Everything in the world will be part of a new system. That's what Mashiach is about. Don't think it's going to be, oh, I just won't have to pay my mortgage. Or, oh, this won't happen. I won't have to walk too far to shul. I mean, what are we talking about? Be better? Nah, it's not going to be better. It'll be fantastic, but it'll be a haficha. The role of Mashiach, as we say in Rosh Hashanah, in the davening in Rosh Hashanah, we know what we say? Vayomer kol asher neshama be'apo. Anyone that has some modicum of spirituality, kol asher neshama be'apo, Hashem Elokei Yisrael melech, u'machuso ba'kol masholo, meloich al kol ha'olam kulo. It means everybody, everything, even the worst of the worst. And that's the sign of Mashiach. That when he reverses the worst of the worst and brings it up to the best of the best, like Rus. That was Rus. Says Kol ha'olam kulo, right? Maloch al kol ha'olam kulo. Doesn't that sound redundant? Kol ha'olam kulo, all of the world. It's like a redundancy. Not. If it would have just said Kol ha'olam, there is a concept in halacha of ruba kekula. The majority is like all. Once there's a majority, then it's like everybody. But kol olam kulo means there won't be one thing that won't be included in it. Everyone. Kol olam kulo. Not with, ruba kekula. Vayasu kulam aguda echas. Okay. Anyone who thinks that they can stay outside of it, and anyone who thinks that they're a big shot enough and have a loud enough microphone and following on the whatever, they have big followings, and they choose not to, and don't want to admit that they're wrong, they will cease to exist. There'll be no existence for them because they are denying and holding themselves out of the true reality. If you're not part of the reality, then you're gone. You have to be part of reality. And that's the reality. So the reversal that we're talking about is not just there'll be, an upturning. Like you have a revolution in governments. That's, however you make those revolutions. Could even be by voting, but it doesn't really matter. It's just revolutions. Things change. It's not going to be a change. It's going to go from the lowest possible level of Ra to the highest level of Tov. The Kedusha will emerge. That's why David HaMelech had to come from stone. Because that was the lowest of the low. And certainly what the Beno Slot did was, some say there is a shita that says that they did it l'shem shamayim. I don't want to get into all that. But Lamaisa, because they thought the world was finished and it was over and they had to start all over again, though the only man around was their daddy, fine. Some people say that people that were making fun of Beno Slot, in later generations, these women would come to him and says, "Big shot, you really think you know what you're talking about?" But leave that be. But stone, for sure, was the lowest point of mankind. Vayav, and what does it say by stone? Vayahafoch esaorim oel kol hakikor. Kol hakikor, vayahafoch. I'm going to tell you something that I feel. Sometimes you get special light. Kadosh Baruch Hu sometimes shines on you. I mean, like many times in the seminars that we've shared together. So somebody will come and ask me a question in the middle of my presentation. And I have to admit, I never heard that apicorsis before. It was a big apicorsis, and I never heard it before. I never even thought about it. and this lady asked me a question with this courses. And I answered her. And I don't know where the answer came from. And it made sense to her and to me. You hear? Where did it come from? I never thought about it. But bingo, there it was. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses us. And the right thing at the right time comes out. So let me share with you a thought I had, which I think was one of those moments of light that kind of. Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha, we say it Friday night in Chodoidi. Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha, Kumi Tzii, Mitocha Afecha. So normally everybody translates that to mean Mikdash Melech, the Beis HaMikdash, the Mikdash of the king, Rabban Shalom. Kumi Tzii, Mitocha Afecha. It's been destroyed. It's been turned into rubble. It was turned upside down. I don't think that's the pshat. I think Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha. Kumi, get up, mitocha afecha, from Mashiach that's going to bring a haficha. Mashiach's going to bring a total reversal to the world. And then you'll have the Beis HaMikdash as it ought to be. And I feel that that's what we have to understand. As we go on, we talk about it. Yeah, Mashiach, Mashiach should be coming. It's good. We'll see. We're all hoping. Rarely do you hear a drasha without saying, yeah, we should be Zaychet to Mashiach Tzidkeinu, amen. Right? Okay. But we have to know what that means. And nothing wrong with that. Know what it means. It means my world is going to be turned upside down. Even Moshe Rabbeinu had a role to play in all of this. Because the Pasuk says, Vayikbar also Bagai, they buried him in a valley, Be'eretz Moav, in the land of Moab. It's a Pasuk in the Devarim. Mul Beis Ba'or, below Yoda Ish Eskvur, also Ad Hayom Hazeh. No one knows exactly where, but we know what was in Eretz Moab. Why was he buried in Moab, of all places? Boy. Because Moshe Rabbeinu reached the Mem Tes Sharei Bina, the highest. You can't get any higher. The Nun Sharei Bina is only outside of this world. But in this world, the Mem Tes Sharei Bina is what Moshe Rabbeinu was, and he was able to have that absolute wonderful connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he was buried in Moab, so the Mem Tes Sharei Tuma of Moab will be overturned by the Mem Tes Sharei Bina of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Mem Tes Sharei Tuma of Moab cannot contaminate the entire world. When it reaches that point, to the Mem Tes, then comes out the Mem Tes Sharei Bina of Moshe Rabbeinu. You know where else we had a reversal? The Klaus of Bilam. Bilam cursed Klal Yisrael, but he didn't really curse Klal Yisrael. He really gave us brachas. Because I'll say, no one gave brachas like Bilam gave brachas. But that's what he was forced to say. He was a robot when he did that. And then it says, V'lo ova Hashem elokecha lishmoa el Bilam. Because he had an intention to curse, and Chazal say, you want to know how much he wanted to curse Klal Yisrael? Look at the bracha. You see how deep the bracha was, you know how deep the intention was for the klala. So, Lo ova Hashem elokecha l'shmo el Bilam, didn't want to listen to Bilam, Vayahafoches Hashem elokecha es haklala lebracha. And he turned the klalas into a bracha. That's again haficha. That's a total haficha. In other words, your reality is not a reality. Do you ever wonder why we dream? Why do we dream? I know you think it's off the subject, but it's not. Why do you dream? I mean, what did Hashem make it that people should dream? What do I have to dream for? Well, sometimes you dream and you wake up and you say, shoo! Oh, yeah, I don't want to have that again. Or sometimes you say, oh, yeah, I wish I could go back to that. Oh, if only. Let me go back to sleep. And then, of course, it doesn't come again. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get a continuation, but usually not. Why do we dream of all things? Well, because when you're dreaming, what do you think? What are you thinking? You're thinking that's reality. You think it's really happening. You think that's it. That's it. That's the real thing. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you say, thank you. Oh, this is all messed up. Okay. You think it's wonderful, or just the opposite. So Hashem is telling us and showing us the next time you dream, think about this. That we're living in the dream. And we're going to wake up to reality. Now, some of us are going to wake up, all of us are going to wake up to the reality of Hashem. That's what I was hoping for. And others are going to wake up to the reality of when they wish that that's what they wanted. This is what's going to be happening. And we have to know that. This is what the Chumash in Bereshis is teaching us. This is the roots of Mashiach and Malchus, of our ability to overcome all the negativity that we face. Sodom, of course, was the most evil place in the world. And it was, again, overturned. And if you think about it, we can now see that the missions of the three Malachim, remember I did talk about that in the beginning, that it was all the same. The goal was the same. The final tikkun in terms of Tchias HaMeisim and bringing things back to where they ought to be is the root of that something that was dried out and unable to produce. That was what Yitzchak was. Yitzchak was a representation of how from that which was seemingly impossible, she had no womb, and she had a child. And it's so beautiful because the name Yitzchak, so we all talk, laugh. But Chazal say, well, I think it's really the Arizal, not Chazal, that the name Yitzchak carries within it in the same letters as the term Ketz Chai, the living end. He lived the Ketz. Yitzchak lived after Tchias HaMeisim. His life was a life of after. And the Chazal say by the Akedah, he died. His neshama left him, and then it was put back in. But not because his father cut his throat. His neshama left him because he was so connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem put back. He was living after. In fact, the Chazal say that when he got off the Mizbeach, he made a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem mechayei ha'meisim. Made a bracha. That's amazing. So the root of the final tikkun was in saving Lot, as we said, right? Lot and daughters and Moab and so on. And the final tikkun of the overturning of Sodom is a representation of the coming of Mashiach, how the world, who was galloping towards the Memteshare Tuma of total destruction, and it's going to be overturned. So all the healing of Avram, of course, was the same thing. Because without Avram Avinu, there wouldn't have been a Yitzchak. So, our society, let's conclude with this. Many of the descriptions of Sodom in Chazal are very similar to our society. I'm not going to go into all the details. Come on. We all know that the filth and the absurdity and the craziness of the world. And they're moving towards that reversal. That's where we're going. Total reversal. It says that Mashiach will either come in a state of kulo zakai or kulo chayav. Either that will all be so great that we'll deserve it, or we've gone with that already. It says that by Chizkiyahu HaMelech even, he was supposed to be Mashiach, and that was a state of kulo zakai. Then, if it would have come then it was because all of Klai. So, because the Gemara says in the time of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, you couldn't find Midonat Beersheva, a young girl that didn't know all the absolute intricacies of all the halachas of Tuma and Tara. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's a pretty good state. And Chazal say that he took a spear, a sword or a spear, and he came into the base of Medrash because Melech, and he pushed it into the ground, into the floor of the base Medrash, so to speak. So everybody thinks, well, because he was the Melech and he was, wanting to make sure that people would listen to him. He says, no. He did it because he was the Tsar of defense. He was the minister of defense. The king is the minister of defense. He says, this is our defense. Where you are now, what you're learning now, you're learning of Torah, you're a presence. That's. And if you don't learn, then we're in great danger. There's one other place where it says Haficha. Well, we talked about that. We talked about it. Nahapachu. No, there's another place. Yonah was told to go to Nineveh and give a nevuah from Hashem. Od arboim yom v'ninveh nepeches. It's going to be turned upside down. When did that happen? It never turned upside down. It's a nevuah from Hashem. It's going to be turned upside down. And it was, because doing tshuva is turning everything upside down. And everything from Nineveh was put back the way it should have been in its proper place. It says that Chazal say that when the nevuah was fulfilled, it seems that how could a nevuah not be fulfilled? And the answer is the nevuah was fulfilled because they all did tshuva, and they did a complete tshuva, and it was a complete hipuch of the way they were acting before. And that is what we're waiting for, and that's what's soon going to take place. I won't say right, all that, but I will say that we should all merit to see the ultimate Geula together with Mashiach, and we should come there and dance separately, but dance before the Melech HaMashiach, who is the great-grandchild of Ruth HaMovia, and we will all be able to rid ourselves of our biases and our self-interest and return to be Avdei Hashem. Okay, so nice to be back. Okay.
Dog agrees with you.
Well.
They don't like the shoe.